Good evening, everyone. I'm sorry to startle you, but I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to come here tonight. One of my favorite nights of the year, where I know we always have a lot going on, but getting us all in the same room is usually impossible. But it's a great way for us to quickly catch up, figure out what the board's doing, and catch up. So we'll go around first. We'll go around this way to say that your name and which board you represent. And my name is Joe Safrovich, Chairman of the Charlton Board of Selectmen.
Hi, I'm Robin Craver, the Town Administrator.
Don Clay, Planning Board.
Ross Lemancey, Planning Board.
Jean Vincent, Planning Board.
Alicia G, Planning Board and EDC.
Kathy Benoit, Planning Board.
Jordan Evans, Charlton Cultural Council and Town Constable.
Tim Howard, Council on Aging.
Elaine Maris, Director of the Council on Aging.
Gail Stokes, Council on Aging.
Barbara Larson, Council on Aging.
Jim Russell, Counseling on Aging.
Deb Noble, Board of Selectmen.
Kathleen Walker on Faymark Farm, Old Home Day. Earth Best Recycling Committee, unless Roland's here. Chip in unless when he wants to do it. Democratic Town Committee, I don't know if that should even be here. Town candidates night and cultural council, Jordan's doing, so.
Brewfest.
She said Brewfest, yeah. So I have a bunch of different hats.
Bob Hartwig, Conservation Commission, Library Trustee.
John McGrath, Board of Selectmen.
We have the outside folks, so it's not this way, go that way.
John Grabowski, Finance Committee.
Stephen Sage, Library Trustees.
Jim Purvier, Birthday Committee, Old Home Day Committee, on the Insurance Advisory Committee as retiree. Take care of the Christmas tree celebration and sit on the Reyes Foundation for the Charlton race.
Dan Dow, Charlton PD, and the Technology Committee.
Oh, and Technology Committee.
Donna Folio, Finance Director / Town Accountant, Insurance Advisory Committee, and Technology Committee.
Joanne Sabanak, Treasurer Collector, and whatever else you want to add on to that.
Kathleen Keel, I'm leaving shortly.
Senate Department, leaving short.
Official
5 to 6 in the morning.
The official photographer for the town.
That's true. Deborah Chickering, Director of Assessing and Chair of the Technology Committee.
Dick Vaughn, Chairman of the Board of Assessors.
Thank you. I think that's everyone. I will try to keep this as brief as we can, probably about an hour and a half. So just quickly, just some highlights of your department, and if you have any questions, we'll take those. I'll try to move along as possible. So we'll go in a counterclockwise fashion. I ask my colleague, Mr. McGrath, to start us off.
Okay, so the Board of Selectmen, we've got a pretty busy year, a lot of things going on. We have a warrant article on the town election right now for money for the public safety building. We're trying to buy a piece of land over across the way from Masonic Home to replace the fire station and the police station. We have some funding available already for it. Masonic Home is working with us on it, and we're going to make sure when we move forward with the building, we'll try to inform the town about the building. We're going to bring up some of the deficiencies that the current fire department has in the existing building that they're in, and also the auxiliary building that they're in down here with the Quonset hut. The Quonset hut is basically, if it was a private concern, it'd probably be condemned. The existing fire station on Powell Station Road is vastly, it was built, I want to say in the 50s, and it was built, for a rural community that had 4,000 to 6,000 people and had an all-call department. Now you have a 23 or 24 member department down there, and it has way outlasted its usefulness. The police department is also pretty much in the same boat, even though the town put a building up in the 1980s. It was a small building, it was built for a small force, and it doesn't serve the police department for what has to happen today. If you think about what you thought about the police department 25, 30, 35 years ago, and what they did, and what they have to do today, and what they have to control, we're just not set up for. So that's one of the bigger things that we're working on. And I'm gonna forget a lot of stuff. We've had a very busy year. We have the medical marijuana facilities going in down on Route 20. We have the Treehouse Breweries in. We have a lot of solar farms that have gone in, so new growth is up. Debbie's going to inform us, what the money is on that. I'm sure if anybody asks a question. We've come to successful negotiations with ExxonMobil, and we're in the implementation phase of that project now. There's a meeting, and I'll defer to Robin. When is that meeting?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but it is coming up and it will be on the calendar.
So it'll be on the Board of Selectmen's page on when they're going to start the water line on this side of town for the schools, for Old Worcester Road, and Norton Station Road, that whole loop. What we call the Casella water line, or the Southbridge recycling water line, which is going up from 169. They're ready to get going now. We came to successful negotiations with the Stearns family for land for the pump station for that, so that so the water situation's moving forward. We've had some traffic issues in town. Well, first of all, we have a new police chief. Kudos to Chief Purvia on his retirement. He's thoroughly enjoying it. I see him all the time. And so we have Graham Maxfield's a new police chief, so we're having a lot of things happening down there. Just a lot of positive things. Like I said, I'm sure I missed something, but I'm sure that Deb will pick up wherever I left off.
Dr. Hartwig?
Okay. I'm just going to speak for the Conservation Commission and related issues. Conservation Commission is primarily responsible for enforcement of wetland regulations in relationship to new construction and so on. More peripherally, we get involved with other environmental issues, beaver dams, forestry management, that sort of thing. We also have responsibility for the town-owned Bay Mountain Farm, and I'd like to say that farm has just been so totally transformed under the new manager. The orchards have been restored. Much of the acreage has been given over to row crops, which are thriving. There's a lively farmers market going in there, opening up June 1st. And also walking trails for the public to use. So I just would encourage people to get out there and see what's going on.
Do they have a webpage up for all this information?
The web page has been a bit of a problem, but we do have a Facebook page, which is well maintained, and it has gardening tips and recipes and what's going on at the farm. So basically, we can stay up to date that way.
Thank you. Support that market.
Yes.
Ms. Walker?
Yes, just to add to what Bob said, we have a lot of, at least 2 members of the Bay Mountain Farm Committee here, but we do have a bit of a hard time reaching a quorum. We have 1 selectman and we need another one. According to our bylaws, we're supposed to have 2 selectmen. So we need a selectman to step up to the plate and help us be able to have more meetings. Let's see, Old Home Day. We are doing better than ever. We have the Irish step dances coming again. They're going to be more elaborate, doing more performance. The Scottish Highlanders were a great hit last year, and they're coming back, and they're really fun to watch. The kids games was the first time last year we had kids games with. I think we went through 100 apple and blueberry pies with all these kids. And there's kids running the kids game, so that's kind of wonderful. This year we're going to have horses marching in the parade from Kathy allows, she's still here, yeah, from Blessings Farm. And we collect money from everybody, and most of the money is really for the fireworks. The fireworks cost about $8,000, Chief?
$8,025.
$8,025. So that's the bulk of the money that we need, and we need to raise that from all the, from everybody in town, basically, so that we can have those fireworks every year. Earthfest is coming up, and we've got more vendors than ever. We've got a lot of games for the kids. Blessings Farm Horses will be here again. The road map is somewhere around here. I think it's up there. So the roads in Charlton are being adopted. And I just got a call today from somebody from the state probation department, and they're bringing about 6 people out to help pick up the roads. So I really would advise you all to take a road as soon as you can, because you may not get one. And they're all on there. And all you have to do is sign up, and then that's
So how do we
your
sign up
road.
for a road? Email you?
You can sign up right over there. There's a
50
map.
miles.
You can see all the lines there. And or you can go online and sign up, go to the website, and get the town of Charlton and sign up for a road. And then that road is yours to clean up before Earth Day, which is the 28th, the last Saturday in April. And we're gonna have a roll-off out back here from Casella, who's donating that to us every year, and they've been very good about that. So that's gonna be a really fun day. Chip-in is always faithful, giving out food once a month to the families that need it here in Charlton. And even though we're a very wealthy town, believe it or not, we have a lot of people that need food. So Darlene Nimco Rollins runs that, and she's incredible. She's an inspiration to all of us. And that's every single month, and especially a big deal on Christmas and Easter. They get more food, but.
And Thanksgiving.
And Thanksgiving, yes. What else? Charlton Candidates Night has been running year after year. Steve Coleman is the moderator, and he does a great job. So even if there's a little kerfuffle, Steve straightens it out. And we have a lot of candidates. Almost every candidate is coming tomorrow night, except I think there's 2, maybe 3 people that can't come for one reason or another. And so it should be a good time and very interesting, and you'll find out. You know, a lot of us know some of the candidates, but we don't know all of them, and it's a chance to see everybody and hear what they have to say and why they're running. And so the last thing I want to say is that I volunteer for a lot of committees, and people ask me why I do so much. I don't do it because I'm altruistic or I'm selfish. I do it because I'm selfish, and I love the fun that I have of volunteering. I get to hang out with great people, the best people in Charlton. And in fact, those very people are right here in this room tonight, because all of you are the ones that make Charlton happen and make it work. You're all doing this for no money at all, just out of the goodness of your heart. So I get to be with all the time. So that's why I do it, and that's the end of my spiel.
Well said. Mr. Sage?
At the candidates night, are there a chance for people in the audience to ask questions?
There are. It's certainly at this time. We'll have some generic questions for everybody, and then people can ask questions. Yeah.
What time is that, 6:30?
It's 6 is this kind of a social get together, and it'll actually start at 6:30, and it'll probably be over by 8:30. And it's at the library in the top floor.
Kathleen, what is Old Home Day?
Old Home Day is Labor Day. It's the first Monday of September.
Third.
Forever.
September 3rd.
This year it's September 3rd, yeah.
Yeah. Fireworks is on the 1st. The rain date is Sunday the 2nd, and Old Home Day is the 3rd.
Thank you.
Ms. Noel?
I hate having to follow you.
Yeah.
And it seems as though that's what I'm doing all the time.
You're gonna be leaving, you're out already.
So this is my first year on the Charlton Board of Selectmen, and as John and Joe have said, it has been quite the eventful year. There's been so much going on, and I've seen a lot of you at the Board of Selectmen meetings, which makes me feel very comfortable in sitting here. In addition to being on the Board of Selectmen, I'm also on the Medical Marijuana Advisory Committee and on the Fay Mountain Farm Committee. I know that one of the last times I saw Jessica from HR, she said that she was having an all department head meeting at Fay Mountain Farm. So that, to bring more attention, because they're doing CSAs there now. If you haven't signed up, you certainly can. Do you know what a CSA is?
No, please.
Confederate States.
I mean, I know.
Defunct.
It's, is it a community share?
I'm supported
Yes.
agriculture.
It's a community share, you pay.
Community-supported agriculture.
Thank you. Community-supported agriculture share. You pay a fee to the farm, and every week you get a box of fresh produce. And if you think that the produce will be too much for you, you can split the share with someone else and share the cost. Let's see, I think I'm the only member of the Medical Marijuana Advisory Committee here. So I'll just give you a brief update. There's a lot going on right now, including us very possibly changing our name from Medical Marijuana Advisory Committee to just Marijuana Advisory Committee or Municipal Marijuana Advisory Committee, because it will no longer be just medical. It will be medical and very possibly adult use. Some call it recreational, some call it adult use. There's a variety of names. I can tell you that just recently, over the last couple of weeks, a medical marijuana facility just opened up in Oxford to absolutely no fanfare, protests, or kerfuffles. And things seem to be doing just fine. We expect the facility on Route 20 to be up and running no later than July. There is a planning board meeting regarding the facility. Correct me if I'm wrong, would that be the 25th of this month?
I believe so.
Okay.
Was it 25th, was it 24th? It's the Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday.
25th.
This is the 25th.
25th, okay. Thank you. I thought it was the 25th, so if anyone is interested in coming, there will be a planning board meeting on the 25th of this month. There's a potential warrant to go on at the town meeting. I'll read it to you quickly. Local option excise on retail marijuana sales to see if the town will vote to accept Mass General Law, Chapter 64N, Section 3, to impose an excise on retail sales of marijuana for adult use at the rate of 3% or take any action relative thereto or thereon. This is something that is going to happen. I understand that there is some trepidation, but I want folks to be comfortable with the knowledge that we are the only town in Massachusetts that has a municipal advisory board for marijuana. Other towns that have sales going on and have medical facilities do not have advisory boards to provide oversight.
What good does it do?
Pardon me?
What good does it do to have an advisory board if it's already gonna be in?
Because nothing will happen without the Board of Health being involved, because that's where the board is housed, that's where the advisory committee is housed, is with the Board of Health. We have a member of the police chief, we have the police chief on, the fire chief, myself, Jim Philbrook, James McMahon from HealthWise, and also a member of the community on the advisory board.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
In that regard? From what I've seen in the newspapers, most of the towns had a vote. The whole town voted on whether or not to accept marijuana facilities in their towns, and we didn't. What's the reason?
Sir, I couldn't answer that. The no opposition letter came about before I was on the board. So to reiterate what Mr. Philbrook said at our meeting about 2 weeks ago, we are moving forward with this because we have to. Because this is the law of the land, and a lot of this has come down from Boston. There is the Cannabis Commission. They're having a meeting next month up in Boston. The Massachusetts Municipal Selectmen's Association
Yeah,
has
but
invited
you're still
them in.
not answering my question.
So Jim,
Sir.
if I
Yeah,
could.
go ahead, John.
We did have a vote on it. We had a vote.
Townwide?
Yes, and it was during a state election cycle, I believe. It wasn't during the
Oh, I don't
presidential
remember that at
election,
all.
but it was vote, there were two questions on there. It was vote for medical marijuana use, and then there was a vote there for recreational marijuana.
Both passed?
Both
Is that,
passed.
is that the?
And that was, and that's the answer, that's the direction that the Board of Selectmen used to go with that, okay? Now, at a town meeting, when we were doing the letter of no contest or whatever it was, I can't, for the
No opposition.
No opposition for the medical marijuana facility. There were people that came in on the second or third night of the hearing, and they wanted to put a warrant article on about it. And they didn't know what to do or how to do it, so we did do that for them, okay? We assisted with town council, I believe, when they did the warrant article.
For the petition
About.
but it was not a zoning.
No, it wasn't
Kind
a
of
zoning,
public
it was just, they wanted to put not even a referendum, just an opinion, warrant article on the item, okay? And it came up at town meeting, for numerous reasons. Some of the reasons were that people who put it forward didn't stay till the end of the meeting where it was on the warrant, and some of the reasons were that people didn't understand what was written. The warrant article actually changed at the town meeting, and it was just basically an opinion that they formed. The state has since, I believe, changed, well, it said that if you wanted, there's something about you were going to change the medical marijuana law, it had to come up during another cycle, either state election or presidential election, so that they get everybody's opinion on it, not just a small group. But that's the long answer for a very short question that you had. We went, Board of Selectmen went on the basis of what was taken at a statewide election on both questions, and it was the majority vote.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
And
Voted okay at the time.
If I can just build upon that, over the last 10 years, there's actually been 3 separate questions on the ballot during these large elections on marijuana. And for every single one, it has passed. And the town of Charlton has pretty much mirrored what happened at the state level.
Well, for instance, Barry just had a vote, and they voted it down. No marijuana in that town.
Okay.
They
No,
may
that's-
not
You know
have
what?
voted on the ballot to support it.
I know the whole state voted to support it.
Right,
Then
and
the
Charlton's-
individual towns, I just don't remember us voting on it.
Mr.
So if we did, we did.
This is not the place, I think, to get into a debate on.
Yeah,
issues,
I agree.
okay? I think it's just time.
Those good
to-
questions, but yeah, just in
Talk about
fairness of time.
departments.
Okay, yeah, in the interest of time. John mentioned briefly some financials that are going on with the town. We recently had a report done by Kurt Meskis, because we wanted to know what was going on with the solar farms, how much land are they taking up, what services are they using, and how much income is it generating for the town. Just to give you a brief synopsis, the solar farms that we currently have are taking up 1.25% of the land mass, and that's if you include the bodies of water. If you take out the bodies of water, the current solar farms are using up 0.8% of the land mass in the town of Charlton, because Charlton is such an enormous town when it comes to land. In addition to that, this year it'll generate over $300,000 in revenue.
Is that
What
noise?
is that
I think it's
noise?
coming. Oh.
Okay.
I think it's a PA.
Second year, it'll be over
PA stand.
$600,000, and the third year, it'll be over $900,000 in revenue generated by the solar farm. There's currently 20 solar farms operating, with another 5 possible in the pipeline. And currently, if you come to the big town meeting in May, you'll see that there may be a warrant article there for a moratorium on new solar farm applications.
Thank you. Ms. Vaughn, I saw you sneak in there and back. We're just going around right now. Just if you can state your name and your committee for the rest of the group, and then just some brief updates from your committee.
Peter is coming down, but Jen Harwich Vaughn, Water and Sewer. We just had a quick meeting. We've got a lot going on our plate in regards to getting water into Charlton and trying to become a consecutive water source. We are applying for a bunch of grants to match the ones that we already have or be in addition to them. And we're just working on trying to make it so what water is out there we can keep here and not have to worry about some of the places that are not as fortunate as us. So Peter can give you a better update when he gets back down. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Vaughn?
Yeah, my name is Dick Vaughn from the Board of Assessors. We are the chief revenue officers of the town as a board. Our responsibility is to whatever is voted, we have to make sure we have the money to pay those bills. And one of the interesting things, we as assessors have to take a course from the Department of Revenue. And it's a 1-week program. And if you don't take it, you can't sit on the board. So we all take those courses, and we pretty much stay up to date. But I'm going to defer to Deb, who will give you some of the nuts and bolts. But on those solar farms, make no mistake about it, they are incredibly, incredibly good for the town of Charlton. Now, one of their kids go to school because they're all solar panels. It's what I consider unencumbered revenue. It's revenue that comes directly to the town in the tax dollars, and we don't have to do anything to earn it. We don't have to plow them. We don't have to do anything. And so we need to think about that before we quickly say no more, because they're a tremendous source of revenue, and it's unencumbered revenue. It's revenue directly to the town that's 100% ours. But I defer to Deb.
Just one question, are they taxed on output or area?
They what? What's the question?
Value.
Yeah, it's on the value.
Taxed on the value of the equipment.
Yeah, well, on the land. A lot of that land was basically, land you couldn't do much with.
Yep.
So it was taxed at a low rate. Yep. Now, there's a business on top of that land.
I know.
And then that whole thing becomes viable tax money.
Can I say something just on the solar? I know town administrator had looked at the old landfill before, and one of the trepidations was the puncturing of the liner. But I've seen in other communities, and I know over in Spencer they're looking at it as well where I live, as the fact there's different systems now that weight it down without having to drive those big rods. So I didn't know if there was any relook at possibly, using a space that is not ever going to be used again. So.
I think part of the answer that might say no to that is part of the reasons that, well, one of the things that the solar companies look at is look at the wires that go by where the landfill is, and 2 is if they have to upgrade them, that upgrade cost. So they got to weigh that option.
Well, I know they have to be 3-phase within 1 mile, but I believe that criteria was met as far as that. I just think in my past talks with the town administrator, to puncture that liner, that can't happen. But there are different systems now
Absolutely.
that might allow that to come to fruition. But anyways, that's for another day.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely food for thought. Thank you. Mr. Greeny?
So, yes, hi. So we all know what assessors do. I can't, we're responsible for setting all the real estate and personal property values. That requires the assessors to be professional at all times, well-trained and educated for all the different types of properties, and classify them correctly. Everything that's coming through, a few of the things that were mentioned already, we have a power plant, we have a dog hotel, marijuana dispensaries, new subdivisions, independent and assisted living facilities. We work closely with economic development, planning, building, and we educate other departments. And we also educate a lot of the community, because when they citizens come to see the assessors, it's pretty personal. So we're one-on-one, and I think education is a huge part. We try and be transparent as possible to let everybody know that there's no magic ball, there's formulas and methodologies that we have to make sure that we're adhering to through Mass Department of Revenue, which is why we always stay up to date. And, you know, we have to provide a stable tax base. We can't just, you know, go out and, you know, slap a value on something and then have it go away in the overlay, and because we didn't know what we were doing. So we have to have substance for all the different types of values that we classify. And we have a lot of senior citizens that are asking now, because of the override, you know, what benefits are available to them, and veterans and blind. And, you know, we try and put stuff up on the website, which I'll get into in technology committee in a moment, why the need for the websites and social media are so important right now. But is there any other questions for assessing? No? Okay, well, I also chair the technology committee, and I'll be brief. But we've been around since 2000, and I remember back in the day building the network with a very generous man from Charlton that helped us, and we were actually buying parts on eBay. Jim remembers, you know, meeting someone in downtown Boston to get a component to put the network together, pulling lines myself, wires, because the assessors and the collector wanted to have that shared database, and that was important to us. That was a move forward. I still had a telephone with didn't even have a hold button. I said it had a hold button. No, it didn't even have a hold button. So technology does, we take care of everything for telecommunications, camera systems, telephones, all the network, you know, for all the buildings. Some of our future goals are to create paperless efficiencies, you know, have the citizens be able to have a very easy access to that, and disabled citizens as well on the website, you know, to use that. Have a sound disaster plan. I mean, all these things are important as we grow. Technology will only make us more efficient and more productive, and hopefully easier. So we're going tomorrow to FinCom to try and get them to support us. And our budget has been embarrassing, $25,000 in hardware every year for 10 years. So you can imagine the departments, the power users that we have on board now, they're starting to really complain, you know, what's up here. You know, we need to beef it up, catch up, hashtag catch up.
Just to
So I have two members here, if any of you guys would like to jump in.
Real brief on the technology. Coming from where we had no computers when I first started working for the town, we had a couple standalones at the police department, but anyways, to where it is now, and the return on the investment of building off of what we have now and increasing it for the Board of Assessors, for the Treasurer's Office, for the Collector's Office, for the Police Department, the efficiencies, the social media. I mean, it's its own living, breathing animal that has to be, that has to have somebody at the helm every single day to make sure it functions. And through a lot of hard work of a lot of people here, it runs, but it's fragile, and it needs to have a solid backbone, because the town will be better served, and I believe that you'll see the return on your investment. So,
thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boria, would you care to give an update for the Water Committee?
Sure. My name is Pete Boyer. I'm the Water Sewer Superintendent. On the sewer side, there is pretty much day-to-day operations. About a year and a half ago, we changed operators to Veolia North America. So they're about halfway through their 3-year contract. There's been a few changes from our previous contractor, and they're doing quite a good job with minimal issues, overseeing the day-to-day operations. We're currently performing 2 studies. The first one is an infiltration and inflow study to try and determine where, when we have wet weather like the 2 inches of rain yesterday, our daily flow goes from 200,000 gallons a day to 800, which you know is not from customers, it's just from either inflow or infiltration. So if we can determine what that is, we can make sure the plant still runs normally when we get the wet weather. So we're in the process of doing that, and hopefully from there we can identify where the problems are causing that additional water to come in. The other study we're doing for sewer is called a headworks analysis, where we hired an engineer to do some engineering studies of what is currently coming into the plant for waste and what the strength of that waste is, and what we can do to optimize how the treatment plant treats that waste so that we can do it more efficiently. And if there's any improvements or upgrades we can do so that we'll be able to take more or stronger waste and still be able to work within the footprint we currently have, but do it more efficiently so we can expand or not be worried about expanding and taking on new customers. So that's pretty much where sewer is. Water, a little bit of a different issue. There's quite a few construction projects going on this summer, as many of you know. The first is the Berry Corner Road water line extension that's going to go up Berry Corner Road to and then tee off at H Foot Road and Ayers Road. So it's going to go all the way H Foot to the Southbridge line and all the way up Berry Corner Road to Ayers Road. It's approximately 6 or 7 miles worth of new water line that's being installed by the town of Southbridge and Casella, and that should start construction right about Memorial Day. So that will be going on all summer. The Water Sewer Commission is trying to figure out the best way to put information out there for the public to know what roads are going to be closed and when, and have easy access for the public to get that information, whether we kind of tag along with the police department's Facebook page, use the town's website, try and get information to the Charlton Happenings page, and try and use whatever other, I guess, informational sources we can piggyback to have that information readily accessible to the residents. We currently don't have our own Facebook page, and the commission didn't really have any desire to get one at this time. So we're going to be doing our best to share what information we do have with the residents. So road closings will be, that information will be readily available, and also the changes that happen day to day will be available. On Route 169 at the base of Berry Corner Road, there's going to be a new pump station being built as part of the ExxonMobil project. The time frame on that is kind of been bumped back a little bit, so that construction should start taking place, I believe, beginning of July, middle of July, hopefully done by the end of this construction season. So that whole area of town, there's going to be a couple of projects going on, so it'll kind of be interesting to see how we can get all of that to work together and kind of keep traffic moving. The engineers have been in touch with the police department to do traffic management plans. I believe there's definitely some good plans in place to make sure that people in the area can have access to the homes while the construction is going on, and that the regular traffic won't be, I guess, minimal impact. The next project we have going on is the school loop, which is going to run from Charlton Center down Old Worcester Road, go to the Heritage School and the middle school, and come up Mugget Hill Road, back up to North Main Street. That was supposed to start sooner, probably I think around Memorial Day, but that's being pushed back till right now probably the fall before any of that construction starts. So unfortunately, I know a lot of people want to see that done sooner than later, but hopefully we're going to have a meeting. The Water Sewer Commission and the Board of Selectmen are meeting with ExxonMobil May 1st to discuss that and get an update on their timeline and why it's getting pushed back, so we have that information to share with the residents as well. And again, that project also had a traffic management plan meeting with the Charlton Police to talk about the best way to route traffic based on where the construction is going to be taking place and what's going on there. The third project that was talked about was the East Charlton water line extension to get water supply from Oxford. In order to do that, we got a grant from the Mass Works office for a new development to extend the water line into Oxford along Route 20 and supply the easterly portion of 20 for those businesses that are affected with salt contamination with water. That project is up in the air right now because of trying to iron out the agreement with Oxford to get water. So that project is put on hold. And the last thing that we're working on right now for water is trying to identify a piece of property down by Buffinville to do possible water exploration to find our own public water supply. We've just about penned an agreement with the landowner to get in there, start doing some actual ground drilling and see if the water is available. And that money is being funded from a grant that we currently had. So we're gonna try and get that done sooner than later and see what's there and see what we can find. So that's pretty much all of the water.
We have one more thing.
Sure.
Congressman Neal came out,
Yes.
as many of you might have been here, and so hopefully we're gonna get some grant money from him and his committee in order to supplement what we have. And I know Robin was there and Peter both making it very instrumental, and Peter's been working with Beta to get a overlay of maps together, right? So that way we can get everything so they can see exactly where we need to get the water, what the best routes are, in addition to what we already have grants out for, so, sorry.
Peter, while you're doing the project, I know before, I don't think Masonic Home Road is in that upgrade currently.
Masonic Home is scheduled to be.
No, the whole road.
The whole road, no.
No, I just didn't know if it was gonna be available to the new public safety complex for future. I mean, if there'd be a line there.
That's not part of the initial design, no. Not at this time. Hi, Kathleen.
Peter, that was really comprehensive. Thank you. But I still have a question.
Sure.
So I was at a Board of Health meeting about a month ago, and they discussed the decommissioning of the wells on Bear
Yes.
Corner Road. And they were concerned that the contract for closing those wells was not something that they were comfortable with. Has that been resolved?
It has.
Okay.
As part of the bid, they did an amendment to the bid to decommission the wells based on the Charlton Board of Health requirements, not the state's.
Okay.
So because the bid came in low, they had it budgeted for $10 million. I believe the bid with the two alternates they had was approximately $6 million. So they're going to decommission according to the Charlton Board of Health regs.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you.
So yeah, I believe that's been resolved.
Thank you, Mr. Boria. We'll keep moving this right along, sir.
That's all right.
Oh, I'm sorry, is that a
Like, it's
question?
okay. No, I'll take over if that's all right, just to start. So the Council on Aging and the Senior Center is pretty busy. We have a lot going on. We have a lot of new people in that are volunteering. They're starting new programs. They want to do new things. We're finding that the space, and it's probably a broken record here, this is an issue. We have multi-purpose rooms, this being one of them. We do just about everything in here. We have the pool room, which I don't know if some of you know, there's a pool table in there. And it's getting to be a little bit too tight for all their games that they're playing. There's also a sewing group in there, computers in there, and storage, and all in that one room. The back room behind the kitchen also is an overflow of the kitchen because the kitchen is too small. And we do a yoga class in there. We have to limit the yoga class because we don't have enough space. So, you know, we want to do all these things, and, you know, I whatever they come to me and say, we want to do this or that, you know, I try and do whatever they want to do. So we try to accommodate everything, but it's really getting tight here for us. And, you know, we would love to expand somehow or do something different. I don't know if a building is going to come available at some time for us or something. I think we really would like to talk more about it. I don't know if you want to add anything, Jim, or.
No, I think she mentioned, with any luck, I guess the school department might build a new school, and maybe we could get the elementary school. Other than that, I have no idea what's up.
I mean, we're not only here, you know, doing things here, we also have an outreach that is out in the community, meeting with homebound seniors and taking care of those, all the needs, health insurance and all. I mean, there's so many things that need to be taken care of, so. We have a great lunch program that people are really enjoying, and luckily we're fortunate to have our own folks, and we just have a lot going on, and people want to see more happening here, so we'd like to accommodate them.
Absolutely, and of course, they have the new public safety complex, obviously the police station, that'd be another venue you propose here.
Sure.
Just to add
Keep us
to
in
that.
mind.
Yeah. Oh, we won't forget about you.
Yeah, just to add to that, personally, I'd like to see us be able to open for lunches on Friday. And you know, I've talked to Mrs. Craver about it, and she wasn't too excited.
What's the advantage of being being closed on a Friday? What do you
Just
say?
for lunch, you know.
What?
We have seen a significant
How much
savings.
money do you save
Yeah.
by closing?
Total dollar value? I know we've been recording, do we have that?
We're recording it and checking if I haven't in the last year or two, since it hadn't seemed to be an issue. So this is the first I'm hearing of it, at least a year anyway. I didn't know you were thinking about that.
Well, I talked to you personally about it.
I have read many times that you still have to heat the building, and so the pipes don't freeze and everything, so the actual savings is very low. I mean, in
Right,
finance.
you don't have to heat it up to this temperature, you would heat it up to a lower temperature or keep it cool at the lower temperature. We have realized that actual savings from it, and we're able to actually have the town hall open later on every day of the week.
Just as an auditor, I'd be very interested to see the numbers on that.
One of the things, when this came before the Board of Selectmen, to shut the building down on Friday. If you remember where we were at that point in time in the recession and everything, we were scrambling for every dollar that we had. And one of the things was that we want to see not a minimal amount of savings. Now, nobody here, especially myself, because I don't have a memory. Sometimes I can't remember what I did yesterday. But I know the number was large enough for the Board of Selectmen to say it's a feasible thing to do. We knew that we were upsetting, the staff's life, okay, because we made the staff, they had to make arrangements for family members. We knew we were upsetting, you know, the lives of the seniors, and we didn't take the vote lightly. So although nobody here can remember what the savings was, I know that it was sizable enough to make sure that we made the right vote. We were stretched tight on money at the time, and we did our due diligence, and that's what it came to. There is a savings, and you know, like I said, it had to be a sizable number for us to make that decision to upset everybody's lives and to close the building down. So, you know.
The other thing that I do want to add is that I believe we had worked with BayPAP, so for the Friday, and I know it's not during the summer, but for those Fridays, that they gave you the same price and they gave you a full lunch, so.
That was only during the
construction.
I thought they were continuing.
Can I ask a question real quick? How many people do you serve lunch to on average?
Probably 20 to 25 average.
Okay, and do they come mostly every day?
Some come for just particular programs. And some stay the whole day.
Okay.
It
So-
just depends on the day.
So on a Friday, we're thinking that there may be 20 to 25 seniors that are not eating a meal.
Well, I don't know if it's eating a
Or
meal
or
if it's
how should I say,
social.
they're not.
A
it's
big
social.
part of it is social, not
It's
just
social,
meal.
that's
Yeah, I
what
think
I
you
wanted
get
to say,
it.
they're not eating a communal meal, they're eating by themselves.
But I think it's an update for us to look at.
Okay.
I think it's time to look at how much we're saving from there.
Yeah, I think it's important.
This is something that
That-
can be
that personal contact. with
done
somebody
during
is
the
very-
town meeting, can this something that can be done during the town meeting to make that change, so we're back open on Friday?
I don't, we can't do it by this
No,
town meeting?
I think the issue there would be you'd have to adjust budgets on numerous line items, and then you'd have to come up with a plan on, is this the only space that you're gonna open? Are you gonna open the town hall full and evening hours again? It's not just a decision that affects just one unions.
So this is really the first time that I'm hearing that this is something that you want to move forward. You guys have mentioned it in passing, but not as into wanting to start something. So my recommendation would be, if you want to pursue that we'll put it on the Board of Selectmen's agenda, and you can come forward and have a conversation with, do you want to do that? What is the need? Maybe quantify some of what needs to happen, and make sure the whole council also is in favor of it. So if you want, I can put that on the selectmen's next meeting.
And just not to belabor that anymore, I think I'll ask for any more updates, and we can obviously take care of any town hall business at a future meeting.
Okay, one further thing too is, again, talking with Mrs. Craver, I thought that we should have the minutes of our Council on Aging minutes passed on somehow to you selectmen, and I know other Council on Agings have selectmen present at the meetings, and I guess she said you people, for the most part, are working, so if somehow we could get the minutes to you people so you'll understand what we're all about, you know?
Absolutely.
Let
Yeah.
me be
Yeah.
clear, I don't think I said that they were working so they wouldn't see the minutes. I think you had asked if the selection would come to one of your meetings.
I asked both.
So,
Yeah, I asked
the
both.
minutes, absolutely,
Yeah.
we can get.
During
How
the
would we
day,
do that?
it's usually first Wednesday of
Give
the
it
month
Submit them to
at
our office,
9:30.
and we'll- they have a refill.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Any more updates from the Council on Aging?
Oh, okay. The only other thing, you know, I can understand the big savings, you know, if
So
you close
I
on Friday.
really, we'll have it on the future agenda just to keep this meeting. We'll have a conversation about that at a different meeting.
Okay, just to make it brief though.
Gotcha.
All I'm talking about is this area here, so not the
Right.
whole
Right.
building. Okay.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Hello. Yes, Jordan Evans, and I will be speaking on behalf of the Town Constables and the Charlton Cultural Council tonight. I'll start off with the Cultural Council. We are a volunteer appointed organization within town that meets to, pursuant to the state organization, distribute grant funds to promote cultural initiatives and artistic programs throughout the community. We have taken it a step further over the years, and we have established a reoccurring art show that takes place every Old Home Day within the town hall, as well as for the last 5 years have conducted regular galas and reception events to honor our grant recipients, to both bring awareness to what the town is doing as well as what events are happening within the town. As far as activities go, we just, let's see, where are we at right now? We are having an organization meeting in the near future. We have just lost two of our two very, very long-serving members, Sylvia Stepien and possibly Mark Cummings, who have done so much for the council and are big shoes to fill. But before they left, we had finished our grant gala with 13 grants being allocated throughout the community for a total of $5,430. And they are going to organizations such as the Senior Center, the Overlook, the library, the Arts and Activity Center, and many other private individuals. Now, we are running into an issue with membership, and this is something that I had discussed in the past with Rick Swenson, and the Cultural Council has some of the strictest membership requirements for any public entity other than the Finance Committee, in that if you are an elected official in any other proximity, you cannot be a member of the Cultural Council. Furthermore, if you serve 2 terms aboard the Cultural Council for a total of 6 years, you must resign for 1 year before being allowed to be reappointed to another year. The town has been derelict in its duties in following both of these MGL statutes, and as a result, we have a huge problem with our membership. We just confirmed a new member who I immediately had to turn away, and that was Cedric Flower, who is a member of the Housing Authority. Kathleen Walker is also a member, and pending her election, possibly in the annual town elections, we will have to turn her away as well. As a result of this, we have had to have approached the Oxford Cultural Council to talk about merging our councils, because if we continue to lose membership, we will lose all of our funding and all of our legal powers. And the only way we can avoid this at the moment is by combining our 2 towns into one joint council. We have tried to bring Dudley on board as well, but they are not interested. So as of this moment, we are looking at a merger with Oxford, pending we find a new way to bring in members. We have reached out to people, but we've had little luck. At this moment, the biggest barrier that we're running into is that the MGL that outlines this is very archaic in how it's written. And it is actually the goal and the stated desire of the Massachusetts Cultural Council that all appointing and appropriating authority members not be allowed to serve. However, because of how the MGL is structured, it's so broad that it includes every elected official in all proximities. So being an ex officio member myself who had to leave, I am working with our two local state legislators on Beacon Hill, as well as a group of other legislators, to possibly pursue legislation to change this, but this will not happen anytime soon. Until then, we need to come up with some way to at least continue to going or pursue a merger with Oxford, which the Charlton Cultural Council has affirmed they are in favor of, and we are now waiting on Oxford. There is a process to do this. It does not need any approval from your offices. There is a how do you want to say it? Like a state guideline to follow for mergers, and as long as we follow through that and stay true to the state guidelines, we are within our responsibilities. In brighter news, we have started distributing the art show forms for the next Old Home Day art show. So by all means, if you are an artist or you know someone who is an artist who wants to get involved, because dwindling membership in the Old Home Day art show is also a problem we're running into. By all means, please take these, distribute these around the community. If you know anyone, make sure these are in their hands, because we would love to have your or their or both of your pieces. So if that's something anyone's interested in, I have plenty of forms which we have distributed throughout the community. Let's see. Other than that, the council has been status quo. The town constable. Now, this isn't something that people usually think of as like the kind of thing that you would discuss at an all boards meeting, but for those who are unfamiliar with the office of the town constable, we essentially serve warrants, post notifications, issue capias, writs of execution, subpoenas. We can arrest you. We can act as a town collector in times of emergency, and a lot of other things that a lot of people don't know about, which is a problem. Now, last year, on this recommendation of the Government Study Committee, we had a ballot question on our annual election that would have made the office of constable an appointed position as opposed to an elected position. At this point in time, or rather, following that election, the constable's office remained an elected position after the question was shot down by a margin of, I think, 30 votes. And the reason why this was originally proposed was because of all of these responsibilities that come with the office that not many people in the community know. And I've consulted with the town clerk's office as well as with your secretaries in your office, and there is no information about how to serve appropriately as a town constable. Now, in a place like Charlton, that's not a terribly bad thing, but in larger communities, even as close as Worcester, some of the responsibilities that are required of the constable put them in direct danger, as well as put the town in legal issues. God forbid something happens. What people who serve as a constable don't know, assumingly when they first get elected in the town of Charlton, is that you have to pay to get bonded. You have to join an association to find appropriate training, because no such training exists on the state level. And Massachusetts is the only state in the union that treats it like this. Now, constables have the same authorities and powers as a police officer, as well as the other responsibilities I told you, such as serving as a collector and other fun things, like being able to arrest people and keep them in our basements until it's funny, but this is something that News Center 5 discussed, and I thought it was funny as well until I realized that that meant I was the one who could arrest people and keep them in my basements, at least until the offices are open on Monday. This is a lot of responsibility that is not properly handled, and in communities such as Greater Boston, there are very strict requirements on what it means to be a constable, such as being able to demonstrate that you've had 3 years of constable experience, or at the very least have passed a series of training exams and tests. Now, since the question was shot down last year, we have to continue on being elected. But it's for this reason that after consulting with the other town constable, Richard Fisk, we think it would be in the town's best interest, as well as our own best interest, if we pursued a budget, at the very least to have a small stipend to apply towards appropriate training, so neither the town gets sued or one of us gets killed, because that can't happen, and it has happened in the past.
I would ask for that to talk with our office and find
Right.
something.
And I mean, it wouldn't even necessarily be large. It would just be enough to cover appropriate training. And unfortunately, as we've learned, and for anyone who served as a constable, I'm sure you'll know, there are a small number of associations throughout the state, and they essentially act as, well, the closest things we have to appropriate training. To access that training, you have to pay to become a member of the association. There is no other real practical way to get that training, and even going to the state, you need to have an understanding in order to effectively serve as a constable. So these associations do offer that privilege, if you will, and as well as the ability to have that kind of safety net to fall back on if, God forbid, paperwork is wrong, or you find yourself in a dubiously legal situation, or God forbid something else happens where you and the town are now a liability. So with that in mind, we think the ability to pay for this kind of training would put both us and the town's minds at ease before something even happens. The other thing we need to be aware of is there is no book right now on how to issue capias or how to go about arresting people, which, God forbid, we never do in this town. We never should do, but this is the kind of stuff that other constables in our Commonwealth are trained to know that we do not know anything about. Well, I do not know anything about. I can't attest to Richard. But the problem is, until we have this is kind of like a soft spot that, God forbid, something pokes it. So, other than that, I'm just serving warrants, doing the job.
Hearing all of this, I would recommend that we have a meeting with the chief of police.
Mhm.
Because this is the first time I've heard about arrest powers for constables. I know you can do some of that, but this town has never encouraged its constables
Right.
to do any type
And
of arresting. And
Sure.
you're right, that gets into major liabilities. So
Right.
usually it's not the chief. So I would love to work with the chief for setting
And just in the interest of time, I would like to keep this moving. I think something we have.
So I'll set up a meeting with the
Right.
chief.
Well, I do just want to wrap up and say that we were approached by your secretaries
So
about.
we'll continue this conversation. We'll continue with someone.
Of course.
Make sure if we continue with the meeting. Planning board, a question, who is your chair?
We don't have one right
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah, I don't think it's that. I don't think it's a lot for Brandon, but
Oh,
we
I
don't
know.
have one.
We have the
Chatty is the vice chair.
chair, the acting chair.
Good.
That's okay.
Unexpectedly. So, everybody already knows we guide and review all matters related to the growth and development of the town. We have tons going on. We haven't had a planning director for, 6 months now? So we're kind of in the middle of that search. Interviews will happen on the 24th, I believe. We have some pretty good candidates, so hopefully we'll move along with that, and we'll figure out salaries and figure out, everything will come together, and we'll finally have a director. We love Bill, he's great, but we're having meetings till 11 o'clock at night, and we're tired and we'd like to go home, so. In addition to that, we have all the marijuana stuff going on, a lot of solar farms going in. Everybody knows the moratorium matter will be coming up. Zoning changes, obviously one of the big hot things right now is the rain for rent, and the motocross zoning change issue. That's really all I have to say. I don't know what else you guys want to add to our list of.
I just have one request, is when at the town meeting, when you read that article about the revenue, the taxation on it.
Yep.
If you you could just sort of emphasize that that's what it is. It's not voting whether it's going to come into the town.
Yes.
It's about the revenue on it.
No problem.
Okay.
Thank you, I appreciate that input.
It, yeah, it just may go over a little bit and not cause a big commotion.
When is your next meeting? Because you're gonna be talking about a zoning issue with 508?
That would be tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Here.
Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Is it down here?
It's down here.
Have you gotten any feedback on that?
I've been cautioned offline that this room will probably not be big enough, and we may have to move venues or turn people away, as we once did when we were at the library, and we reached building capacity.
Wow.
So, we're hoping that that is not the case, but if past prevails future, then it probably will be. They'll be packed.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Speaking of library, I know Mr. Sage had to leave, so Dr. Hartwig volunteered to give the update.
Speaking to the library trustees, I guess our primary function is to consult with the library director, approve budgetary items, discuss capital improvements that need to be done and that sort of thing. Approve changes in policy, which could be anything from the term of lending to allocation of purchases. I would just point out that some of the fastest growing areas are really our online services now. So while we don't lend as many e-books, which is part of actually the broader CWMAR system, as we do print books, they're catching up. We also online have services that make just about any piece of music you've ever heard of available. Self-instruction in more than 60 languages is available through the Mango program. So that's an interesting thing to do. And we sort of expanded, and the trustees have encouraged this, our functions to a kind of a broader cultural services. So we have exhibits of stained glass. I believe the quilt exhibit is still going on,
Yes.
isn't it? And it's definitely worth. If you don't care about quilts,
I mean, you should care about quilts.
Are really works of art.
Who hates quilts?
Yeah, well, nobody hates quilts, but you really have to think about them all the time, you know? But it really is quite a spectacular exhibit. I would say, like many places around here, we're experiencing a bit of a space crunch. To the point where the trustees are going to hold their next meeting in a corridor. But we did submit a budget for, again, a 6-day week. And, well, it wasn't rejected outright, so we're a little bit optimistic about that because one of our concerns is after school, kids get dropped off there. They have research resources. They have people who can help them out. They have a safe place, a quiet space to work. And on Fridays, they really don't have that available to them. So we think that would be a valuable thing we can actually pull out. But other things that go on there is a lot of tutoring happens there. The library staff will monitor tests for people taking online courses. And tests have to be done in a supervised setting. So it really has become a larger function. And when you think of all the people doing online courses, the local library has become kind of like the college library, you know, the place to study, the place where you get your resources. So that's...
And the Girl Scouts want to thank you for all. We use the space constantly. There's, I think every day of the week, there's probably a different Girl Scout troop at that library.
Yeah, I mean, you walk in that library almost any given day and you hear the sounds of children having fun sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, Bob, now I can add this on now that Stefan's gone and we're not a quorum.
We were posted.
I know, I was with you. We recently also crafted our first formal social media bylaw. So I don't know if any other organization in town has a formal social media bylaw for how to handle and act on the internet, but we have one in place. And by all means, you're more than welcome to steal it.
I would ask you to connect with the technology committee on that. That's been something we talked about later.
That would be a regulation.
Already? Very good.
Oh, I'm sorry, regulation. I mean, we call all of our bylaws.
Yeah, Right.
But they're
The
just committee bylaws.
But it's, I suppose it's a policy.
Should we?
Semantics.
Oh, policy, sorry, yeah, you're right.
Policy.
Should we change
Because
this?
you actually led the basic policy, you've been going on. for
You're right, it's a policy, my bad.
18 months, maybe.
Yeah, well, still working on the others.
Thank you very much. Mr. Gronowski with the Finance Committee.
I don't have much to say, other than I'm pretty sure everyone's aware that we're currently working through the budget and preparing that for town meeting. That's been our focus.
Jim?
I just want to talk about one committee, that I'm really the committee of one, okay? It's for Christmas, okay? So since about 2003, I took over the Christmas function from the Boy Scouts. Formerly, as the police chief, I had access to the auxiliary officers helping me, and in the last couple of years here, it's been me and maybe one or two people. This last year was basically me. There's no budget for it. Steve Gardner, who's runs Sun and Sound out of Worcester, has helped with some monies and some repairs, but it's something that I've been passionate about doing, but it's also something where now the town has improved, like on your lighting, and you have electricity on your poles, so there could be, you could electrify those with some type of lighting or garland, but there's no budget. There's never been a budget. It's always been Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, police department, or what have you. Retired Captain Bud Harris has done the Festival of Light Parade, and we've worked that in. So it's an event that's been going on way before me, and I'd like to see it continue, but it's very difficult to get people a lot of times, not only as volunteers, not so much putting up the display, but generally in January taking it down when I try and look for a warmer day, but that's not always the case. So it's something that like a lot of people come out for. We have a great time. The library is really great, letting us use for a concert prior to Santa Claus coming. Families enjoy it, and I'd like to see it continue, but I'd like to at some point come before the board and see if we could, and work with the town administrator to see if we could work out something, as far as maybe a little bit of funding, or maybe there's avenues of getting other volunteers and keeping it outside of the budget. I just want to work to that end, as opposed to say, I'm done with it, here's the stuff, and you want to do something with it. So I don't want it to separate from that. I don't mind doing it, but I need more help.
Thank you for sharing that. John?
Can we get the chief on the agenda to talk about that?
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Roy.
Eric?
Eric Tully from the town clerk's office. Right now we're in election mode. I'm still learning as I go. I can't believe the amount of paperwork that goes into an election before and after. So we're wrapping up now with the school election, and then we're going to be moving on to the town election. The next election will bring the rollout of the new voter machines. We had training last Friday. It should be pretty seamless, I think. I think the voters are really going to like them. They just have an automated screen, and it'll make things a little bit easier. We're implementing some new dog licensing software, preparing for automatic voter registration. Several emails coming through every day from the state on that, just trying to keep us up to date. And I think in our office right now, one of the biggest things is we're attempting to go for a small budget on training. Karen and myself attended a couple conferences, and it's really amazing how much knowledge comes out of one simple meeting. That's about it for our office right now.
Thank you. Dan?
Hi, I'm just sitting in for Chief Maxfield. He went to the wake of the officer that was killed in Yarmouth, so he couldn't be here. One officer apologies for not being able to be here. A lot of our issues have already been discussed by Mr. McGrath. You know, obviously a need for a public safety building, the increases in technology and stuff, how that affects the agency, and obviously the calls for service, and as the community grows, the need for services grows. So that's really all I have. It's been most of the topics have been brought up already.
I have a question.
Sure.
Who does the crime and punishment thing? I love it.
Mike McGrath does. Mike McGrath does a good job with the Facebook.
Yeah, I always comment. I just think
What's the pun and punishment?
Yeah, yeah.
You, Donna?
Yep, for finance and accounting, it's been an interesting year coming in and having to kind of undo some things that I found from last year to try to get departments and different, I've met most everybody on the different accounts to get everybody back in shape. We did a conversion to the non-general fund numbers. Hopefully that's made it easier for people. We did a totally different budget with a lot more detail this year. And we're working on about a dozen different policies that were recommended by the state. Once those are done, I have a whole nother set of policies that are required through, because we receive federal grants. So I'll be working on those as well. It's been a tough audit for this year because it was for a year that I wasn't here for, so I'm trying to answer a lot of questions that I wasn't here for, but we're working through that. We also had a OPEB actuarial study. That has just been completed. That will be part of the audit as well. I just last week attended a IAC meeting, which is the Insurance Advisory Committee meeting out in Deerfield. I'll be bringing that information back to the local IAC. And we meet fairly regularly on the IT committee. I'm coming in with a different set of eyes. I'm coming from a town that was very technology advanced. So I'm hoping that we can get Charlton into that same use of technology and make it so that people can use it. And that gives them access 24/7 if it's done right. So that's helpful.
Can I say that that was a neighboring town?
It was a neighboring town.
Thank you.
But that's it, working busy.
Thank you. Joanne?
Good evening. You probably already know what I do in my office, but there are other things involved. And Eric mentioned online dog licensing. That's one of the things that technology and upgrading software, which I'm working on with Donna and with Debbie, that IT really needs to grab hold of to make this something that's user-friendly, not only for the employees, but for the townspeople, such as online dog licensing. That's a technology thing. It needs to have money thrown at it. Sadly, everything does, but it's important. I don't get to see the boards and committees, but I just wanted to thank you all for implementing the new turnover policies and doing that with the 3 copies and being a bit more detailed in your turnovers. I appreciate it, having the numbers on everything, and Donna, I know Donna appreciates it, so thank you. Thank you for doing that, and I understand it was, kind of, but we always did it this way. No, that's not an acceptable line. So just to modernize things, bring things into where they're supposed to be. So thank you.
Thank you. And just as another update on the whole technology side, is that there has been talk between the Board of Selectmen and the Technology Committee about redoing our website. So that's one of our top priorities, is that we're getting a lot of complaints about accessibility, use from the boards, putting information on there. So that's another concern that we have heard and we're trying to address. And we'll finally wrap it up with Ms. Graber.
I just have a couple of notes. First, I don't know if you've realized how many new faces we have. I'm sitting here thinking about the past year, and we have a new, and many of these were just replacements because people moved on, but some of them have been consolidations. We have a new finance director, treasurer collector, HR director, fire chief, police chief, water sewer superintendent, and the planning. We'll have a new planner shortly. So we've had a lot of turnover. I can tell you that the new staff that's coming in is just fantastic. They work really well together, especially our finance team has been doing some really good things. So first, I just want to let you know that that's going on. The Board of Selectmen did do a stipend. I know that there were some boards and committees that had asked for stipends. That request, some additional stipends increases, that request went to the Personnel Board. The Personnel Board decided not to move forward an article on town meeting this time. So the Board of Selectmen agreed the best way maybe to skin this cat, so to speak, is to develop a committee, an advisory committee, a stipend advisory committee, and have that advisory committee operate somewhat like the Government Study Committee and make recommendations directly to the town meeting. And that way the Board of Selectmen and the Personnel Board, it's just that way. So that should be being advertised now. I know that there are a couple of seats that need to be from someone that's on a board or a commission. And then there's some citizen seats and some others. So if you have an interest, please check that out and ask to be on that committee. We just finished, thank you to those who came to the municipal climate vulnerability workshop we had last Saturday. It was very well attended. We had businesses there, we had department heads there, we had elected people there. What we did was take a look at, and I'm sure if you've been watching the late night news, you have just been, it's almost becoming a regular thing to see what part of the country has been hit by some kind of natural disaster, whether it's flooding, whether a road has been washed out. We here in Charlton have experienced a tornado, an ice storm, extreme heat, extreme cold. We've had tornadoes, hurricanes, drought, and some flooding. So we've had all of it here to some degree or other. So what's happening is that we received a grant to look at what our vulnerabilities are. There's monies coming in, $5 million coming in. We're going to try and go after Peter's department, the highway department, conservation. They were here. They have some really good ideas on some upgrades that we may need to do. So we'll be trying to move forward with that. I don't want to keep you. Website updates you've already talked about. They're working on that. I know that there are space issues, and I think someone said if we can move forward with the public safety building, that opens up the police department, and I would certainly want to be looking at something for the senior center and for archival storage. And I think that might give relief to a lot of the meeting spaces, because I do recognize that we just don't have some really good meeting spaces dedicated to really meeting. So just want to let you know that. And lastly, we have a Green Communities grant, and we need to get it done right away. One of the things in that, so just so you know, if there's some construction out front, one of the things that we got with the grant is to put up a charging station for electric vehicles, as more people are now starting to invest in those. And we'll put that out in front. It'll be a charge, so the taxpayer's not paying for somebody to charge up their vehicles, but we're trying to move forward into the 21st century and get that. So those are some things that we're doing that we're kind of excited about.
Thank you, Ms. Graber. Any last questions or announcements? Anything to share? The Geiger counter is saying it's time to go home. Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Ms. Walker said it best when she mentioned that a lot of us are unpaid, underappreciated, so that's why I end with thank you all for everything that you do. Have a great night.
It's pretty early. We don't do it until